Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am here to talk about Superman and Lois. That is the pilot episode, the series premiere, which premiered Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021 on the CW with a special 90-minute episode. So, huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. Other video reminders are up on screen. Take a moment and remind yourselves of those. Also, this is just the first genuine reaction to my thoughts for it. I'm recording, technically, it's 10:08 p.m. for me right now, but I just finished watching the Legacy of Hope's featurette that aired after the episode, which was the behind the scenes look of what went into the pilot and kind of what's to come in season 1. So I'm still fresh off of the Superman premiere. But otherwise, let's get right into it. It's going to take a different approach than my usual recapped episodes, but I am a screenwriting student, and I had a huge emphasis on studying pilots over the last year, and I thought it'd be pretty interesting to kind of do a little bit of, kind of picked up on what I took away from this pilot, because there's supposed to be so much emphasis on on a good pilot in order to get a show picked up. So I figured, why not? Probably should have factored in the fact that it's going to be slightly different because it's 90 minutes versus the 60 that I've studied. So we'll see where that goes. But before we get actually into it, the last time we saw Lois and Clark in the Arrowverse was during the big crossover of Crisis of Infinite Earths, which aired the first part in December of 2019 and the second part of January 2020. So literally like a year ago. And this was the crossover where originally Superman and Supergirl both lived on Earth 38 with Metropolis, Smallville, National City all over there. But then multiverse collapsed, and then Arrow kind of rebirthed the multiverse, but he recreated Earth Prime. So now that not only did Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman are on their original Earth together, but now Supergirl is on that Earth. Black Lightning is on that Earth. Now, because Superman stems from Supergirl, he is now on their Earth as well. So now we're on Earth Prime. And originally in the Earth 38 version, Lois and Clark just had baby Jonathan. But then after the world got rewritten, now they have 2 twin teenage boys who are just starting high school. So huge change there. So that's something there. Also, a thing I wanted to point out, though, was that there wasn't actually any Arrowverse mentions in the pilot. Like, if you didn't know anything about any of the other shows, that wouldn't have been a problem. Like, it would have been more Easter egg kind of a thing if they did mention it, and then if you were a fan of the other shows, then you would know. But in this episode, there actually were no mentions of the Arrowverse or what happened on Superman's previous appearances on Supergirl over the last 4 years. So that was something that was interesting. But storyline-wise, I did pick up on 4 different things they kept touching back on. The first one being the whole nuclear plant mystery. That's more going to be like a season thing, because it seems like the perpetrator behind that is going to be Clark's antagonist, I believe, for the season. So that's something there. Something that was more focused on in this episode was the Kent family moving back to Smallville after the death of Martha. So kind of the idea of coming back to Smallville, since they do live in Metropolis. So that was a recurring theme there, or a recurring thing again. We also kept getting the recurring mention of Morgan Edge and his effect of companies, and how his sudden interest in Smallville is very troubling. So we do see that. And a huge storyline is the fact that Jonathan and Jordan Kent, the twin boys, actually come to learn the truth about their father being Superman, which is a huge thing since they were back in Smallville, back where he is his hometown. So that's something. But let's get right into structure, shall we? Like I said before, because it's 90 minutes, the usual structure for a 60-minute pilot would be a teaser and 5 acts. And that's usually for shows that are airing on television who have commercial breaks. It's going to be different if you're on cable. It's definitely different if you are on a streaming service originally. But because it was actually 90 minutes, this episode ended up having a teaser and 8 acts. Which kind of fits, because acts 6, 7, and 8 kind of take the place of teaser 1 and 2 if you're coming into like the second half of the half hour, if that makes sense. But anyways, the teaser opens up with first a summary of Clark's life from him landing to like his present day. And then we get him doing this massive save at the nuclear power plant before it erupts. And then we cut into the title card. And then with Act 1, this is where we actually get Clark interacting with his father-in-law, General Sam Lane. And then he comes home, interacts with Lois for the first time, and then interacts with Jonathan first, and then Jordan. And then he gets a call from his mom, Martha. And then we jump into the first day of school for the boys, first day of high school for them. So we see a little bit of the family unit together in that breakfast morning. And then we see Clark and Lois go into work, only for Clark to get fired due to pay cuts from Morgan Edge buying the Daily Planet. But before he can leave work, Clark gets a phone call about Martha's death due to a stroke. And it ends on a commercial from that point, with him rushing home to see her already gone. Act 2 starts off with Martha's funeral. It's like sad just to see it. We do get the introduction of Lana Lang and her family. We do also find out the past history, not only with Clark and Lana, but also with their family spending time together during that one summer in their past. Jordan has a crush on Lana's daughter, Sarah. We do have conversations between the two couples about Morgan Edge's interest into Smallville, and then as well as into the future of Martha's farm. And then we also get the interest of the twins looking into the barn and always being told, do not go in there. They go in there because the router is supposedly in there, and in some weird high place too, might I add. But in trying to get to the router to fix their cell service, Jonathan ends up getting into a bit of an accident, and Jonathan jumps right in to save his brother, and they both get crushed by pipes, only to cut to commercial and then come back to Clark rushing in to find the twins relatively unscathed underneath the pipes, but they're completely confused by what's happening. So then we also get more talks about Lois and Clark talking about the possibility of one of the twins having powers, because the only way that both of them would have survived that pipe accident was if one of them had shielded the other, and that one being the one with powers. And they assume that it's Jonathan. Just with some of his, he showed signs previously that might be the case, but never anything to prove it. And just before they really get into it, General Lane returns with news for Clark about the nuclear power plant. Whoever is doing it knows that Superman is Kal-El, and he's writing to him in Kryptonian. So that's something there. And then we get this huge fight when Lois stands up to both her father and Clark, saying that Clark can't go off to be Superman right now. Their family needs him. And then Sam kind of tells her, like, I warned you about this. You didn't just marry Clark Kent, you married Superman. And Superman can't have a normal life. Which I can understand, but the guy can try, right? Like, he has to try. So the next act starts with a new day, which is Act 4. And this is when Clark and Lois go to the bank to meet Lana, and they find out about not only about Martha's kindness to the community, but also the reverse mortgage that went on the farm and what their options were about either they keep it or they kind of sell it. This is also when we get the twins investigating the barn and finding Clark's Kryptonian ship. And it ends there. Also, I had the question, because maybe I'll bring it up later. Bring it up now. I'll pose the question now. I wonder if you watch the episode, you know only one twin actually touches the ship. And it's the twin that actually does end up having powers. But I'm wondering, if the other twin had touched the ship, would the ship have reacted the way that it did with the twin that had powers? I don't want to spoil it just yet. But if you're already watching this, you already know what happened. So you'll know what I'm talking about there. So there's that. So, cut to commercial. Act 5 starts with Clark and Lois coming back home and talking about maybe what Martha's message about coming back home meant. Only to be confronted by the twins about the ship, and Clark having to not only reveal the truth, but to give them proof that he has powers, which blows up in his face because Jordan takes it the worst about it. And then Jonathan just sides with his brother, of course. So that's what happens there. But while Clark is trying to deal with the twins' reaction to it, he hears about a sighting at the nuclear power plant. He goes and confronts this perpetrator, this stranger, and finds out that they're using the lead walls in the power plant to conceal their location from Superman. And we kind of cut halfway through the conversation. And we jump into Act 6. So this is now we're at the hour mark of the episode out of an hour and a half. So Act 6 starts with Jordan going to the bonfire that Sarah had invited him to. They hit it off, sharing some personal tidbits about each other. While this is happening, Clark is being confronted by the stranger at the power plant. They reveal themselves as being an alien or a stranger, from my understanding. But while Clark is in a fight with this perpetrator, Jordan ends up kissing Sarah, who has a boyfriend, so that boyfriend confronts him, and then that gets Jonathan into the fight too, to the point where all these guys are ganging up on the twins and beating the crap out of them. But because Jonathan's getting it the most, Jordan's anger activates his heat vision, and he sets off an explosion nearby by one of the methane tanks and to break up the fight. But it's revealed that he's the one that has powers, not Jonathan, who everyone believed would be the one to have powers, which I kind of think would have been too obvious of a choice. But then also that would mean that would be too obvious as well that you'd make it the other twin. But anyways, we'll get to that later. But then before we cut to commercial, I believe Clark gets stabbed by a Kryptonian knife in the chest, and he falls from space because that's where they're fighting at the moment. Now, Act 7 starts with Lois calling in for information about bank loans, only to see the news and then signaling for Clark that the twins need him. But as Clark falls, he has memory flashbacks of his time being on Earth, and then he wakes up to Lois's voice and takes out the Kryptonian blade and then rushes to the bonfire location. He finds Jonathan first, but then he sees Jordan, and then Jordan tells the family what really happened in the barn and how when he fell, something shook within him, and then when Jonathan jumped on top of him to protect him, Jordan felt this overwhelming need to protect Jonathan, and he rolled them over so that it was Jordan's back that took the brunt of the hit from all those pipes and not Jonathan, like we were meant to believe, which I thought was pretty clever. So that kind of jokes were said prematurely, and Jordan doesn't like it. Clark and Lois talk a little bit more about what this means for the family, and then Clark realizes what Martha's words were, and he suggests like maybe they should move to Smallville, be a simpler life, and they would be closer as a family as opposed to being in Metropolis. So Lois thinks about it, and then Clark goes to talk to Jordan and promises that he will, well, first he shares memories about his own father, and then he promises Jordan that he will be there for him and help him through his new power development. Then we cut into the last act, Act 8. And this is where we get Clark and Lois telling Lana about their plan to keep the farm. She's surprised. And then she's also surprised to learn that Morgan Edge is actually behind all the reverse mortgages in Smallville. And they peg the question as to why he would be interested in all these mortgages in Smallville. I have a theory. I should probably write that down. Give me a moment. All right, I wrote in predictions so I don't forget. But where am I? Okay, so while they're meeting in the house, the twins meet up with Sarah outside of the house, and they talk about the bonfire and what happened, who was hurt and such. And Jordan apologizes for kissing Sarah because he didn't know that she was with Sean. But she apologized for not telling him. She just really liked his company and thought he might needed it after what she saw at the funeral. And she asked him to keep her secret about some personal things that she admitted before the fight broke out, and he agrees. But I also think something's brewing between the two of them. But anyways, after Lana leaves with her daughter, Clark and Lois tell the twins their plan to move to Smallville. Twins need to take some time, but then they seem eager to know a little bit more about Superman since they have a bunch of questions and they want to go to the barn to answer them. So we have that. The last scene of the episode shows the snowy mountain from the looks. I don't know if it's where the Fortress of Solitude was meant to be, but the stranger that was attacking Clark goes into this spaceship looking thing and he talks to this computer. He removes his helmet and the captain refers to him as the computer on the ship refers to this stranger as Captain Luthor. And I have questions. So that we're going to leave it there. But potential hints from all of that, from what I think the show is actually going to focus on going forward. Definitely the family's move to Smallville is going to be a huge adjustment because they're going from busy city life in Metropolis down to farm life, something that Clark is used to, but the twins and maybe Lois are not. So that's going to take some getting used to. Another thing is the fact that Jordan has these new powers coming in and they're developing differently than what Clark had to deal with. So we're going to see how that's going to happen. Plus, there's already this tension between Jordan and Clark. So even though this thing bonds them together even more so than what Clark and Jonathan have, there's also this tension between them because Clark was absent for so long and Jordan has all these issues with Clark. So it's going to be an interesting little tug of war there between the two of them. Also, another hint is probably a little bit more about the Stranger or the supposed Captain Luthor, which I have questions about. We'll get right into it, but he's definitely being set up as one of the season antagonists because I believe the mystery behind Morgan Edge's interest in Smallville is the other antagonist. So it's kind of like you got one antagonist that's solely focused on Superman, and then the other antagonist is something that Clark Kent would have to deal with from the looks of it. Unless they manage to tie the two together, I don't know. But it's either that or Morgan Edge is more slated to be Lois's antagonist, and then the Captain Luthor is going to be Clark's antagonist. So it'll be interesting to see about that. But let's move on to the most shocking moment of the episode. So the most shocking moment for the episode for me is the fact that Captain Luthor at the very end was the guy who was attacking Clark. I mean, it makes sense because of the whole history behind Lex Luthor. But when he was talking at the plant, he kept saying I kept getting the impression that he was another alien from another planet that had beef with Superman. I didn't think that he was Lex Luthor, plus also the exosuit is very different from what we saw on Supergirl, so that was another reason why I didn't think so. Plus, also, just a heads up, as of this recording right now, IMDb still lists the guy playing Luthor to be the Stranger, but Wikipedia has now changed it to him being Lex Luthor. So I'm like, which is it? Because they definitely didn't say Lex Luthor, it said Captain Luthor. So I'm wondering if that's just an assumption for them, for Wikipedia saying that, like, no, it's Lex Luthor, and then it's like, maybe not, maybe it's a different Luthor, because that is something I'm going to get to later, I think. Let me double check. Let me just double check right now. Okay, just saying it right now. I'll say it now. Most shocking moment is the fact that if this Captain Luthor is actually Lex Luthor, I'm going to be very shocked because they recast Lex Luthor then. Because on Supergirl, Lex Luthor was a part of them for what? Season 4 and Season 5? And he was played by John Cryer. But now, if he is Lex Luthor, he's being played by a different person. I believe his name is Wolf. But I do recognize him I recognize the name as him being Cade on the Vampire Diaries in Season 8. So it's like, if he is Lex Luthor, I'm just surprised that you're recasting. Like, I get why you recast, but at the same time, it's like you've already had this character on the Arrowverse. So, like, well, unless they explain as part of the storyline why he suddenly has a different face, then I'm just even more shocked. That's why I'm hoping it's not Lex Luthor, because then I need the answer as to why he is now being played by a different person. Because it would have been very different if after the Crisis of Infinite Earth, Lex Luthor was on Supergirl second half of Season 5 was played by someone other, like someone else. If this version of Lex Luthor was then playing him in the second half of Supergirl, then I can understand, okay, it's because the world was rewritten. The version of Lex that was supposed to be on Earth Prime is now played by this actor and not the one that played it on Earth 38. But no, they still kept John Cryer for the second half of Season 5 of Supergirl. So it's like, and that was on Earth Prime. So it's like, okay, who the hell is this new guy now? So I'm hoping it's not Lex Luthor, but I'm hoping it's somebody else. But I do understand why it would be because of the whole dynamic between Superman and Lex Luthor. You know what I mean? That's kind of a little long for shocking moments, but I digress. Anyways, let's go to top 3 favorite moments. First one, Clark telling the truth to the twins. I've been waiting for this since I've seen the promo. I always love it when they have like those identity reveals. It's supposed to be such a big thing. And I'm kind of glad they did it for the twins in the pilot instead of like kind of doing it halfway through the season and the twins suddenly finding out. I mean, I wish we could have kind of saw that journey for them as well. But I like that we got right into it because it made sense. Why? Because Jordan was expressing his own manifestations of the power. So I do appreciate how it was happening. I thought it was fitting that it happened on the farm because that is where Clark came into his powers and such. But we'll get to another moment about that later. Another favorite I had was the confirmation of the twins having powers. I mean, they talked about it throughout the episode, and yeah, it always has to be something on their mind when you have a Kryptonian being with a human and they have a child together. That child is half Kryptonian, half human, so there is going to be the question of whether or not, well, are they going to actually have powers or not? If they were on Argo, that wouldn't be an issue. They wouldn't have powers, but they're on Earth where Kryptonians have powers. So I really like that we actually got it in this episode, like firm confirmation, and it wasn't dragged out that one of them did have it or didn't have it kind of a thing. And I did mention it before that they were hinted in the fact that they wanted you to believe that Jonathan was the one that had the powers, but it was actually Jordan. But then because of the whole rift between Clark and Jordan, it would make sense that it would go to Jordan just because the powers are a way you would bond the two together. And also make it so that it wasn't obvious that Jordan was the obvious choice to have powers. But then again, it's like, well, he's the obvious choice, so obviously they're going to go the opposite route. But they would have been surprised that no, they kept it with Jonathan. You know what I mean? So they could have gone both of either ways, just to fool us or to not fool us. It depends on how far you want to go into it. It's kind of like if you go rock, paper, scissors. Like if this person always throws rock and I'm throwing scissors, and that maybe I should throw paper and like kind of do that whole route thing. But anyways, I digress. But it was great in this episode that in the moment that Jordan activated his powers, it was because he was angry by these guys beating up on his brother. And he couldn't do anything to stop them. And he was just like overcome with all that rage. And I'm glad he didn't hurt anybody in that moment. But I'm glad it was such a huge protectiveness over his twin, which was what kind of boosted it in the first place. Because that also is what happened when the pipes dropped on him. Moment where Jonathan dropped on top of him to be protective, he flipped over wanting to protect his brother, which tend to serve them well, kind of a thing. So there's that. And then another favorite I had was the opening save that Superman did with the nuclear power plant. It was just it was very cool that right off the bat, before they even cut to the title card, that we got to see Superman in action. We got to see a bunch of what his powers could do. We got to see the heat vision. We got to see the cooling breath. We got to see the flying. We got to see the strength. And just all of that in that nuclear power plant. So I thought that was pretty great. It's definitely a different tone too, because as I was watching it, I wasn't getting the same vibes I got from Supergirl. I was getting more vibes that matched with Arrow, which I thought was pretty interesting because Arrow was more darker of all the Arrowverse shows. I mean, you can kind of tie with Batwoman, but I'm a little behind on Batwoman, to be honest, which I should get onto it now that every other Arrowverse show is coming back. But yeah, that was an interesting opener to have, and the save that he does was pretty cool too in the taser, like the choice they made for that save. But moving on to peeve moments, huge peeve, and it's something that always just sticks with me with the whole Superman story. And it's the fact that the stupid glasses, the fact that no one recognizes Clark Kent with the glasses, all of a sudden he takes the glasses off and it's Superman. The fact that nobody recognizes that, I'm like, are you guys stupid? I mean, like, and it was even more so because that literally Jordan pretty much attacked Clark by saying like, no, we've seen Superman before, like you can't be him kind of thing. And then Clark literally stands in front of him and takes off the glasses. And then, like, that's it. And, like, there was no bout of recognition from them. There was no, until, like, he flipped the car up. But I was thinking, like, okay, maybe the glasses is, like, maybe there's some kind of glamour on them. Maybe at the moment that he stops wearing the glasses, maybe something is going to, like, move away from him or go over him to hide his true face or something when he's without them. or something to like you know how in Supergirl, well, hopefully you do, but in Supergirl in season 5 when I think Kara has the nanotech technology for her suit, so and it was coming from her ring or something, and it would just kind of bleed all over her instead of like her having to rush and like rip the clothes out from under her current outfit. It just kind of grew on her skin and became the second skin on her is the suit. I was kind of thinking like maybe the glasses was something like that. Like maybe like he took it off and then all of a sudden they just see this different face. When everyone sees Superman, it's a different face. But then with the glasses on, it's just Clark Kent's normal face. But I got no reaction. I got no special effects when it came to that glasses scene. And I'm like, really? We're really going to go with the excuse that really no one recognizes them with or without the glasses? Even his own family? And I'm like, what? That makes no sense to me. And that's also the worst disguise ever. Like, come on. I mean, I also have an issue with Kara doing it too, but it really bugged me in this moment because literally Jordan says, we've seen Superman before, you can't be him. And right in front of him, Clark takes the glasses off and nothing else happens. No magic, no glamour, no shifted appearance or something. And like, there's Superman standing in front of you and there's no reaction until he flips the car out. And I'm like, really? Did you really see Superman before then? Like, I don't know what to tell you. So there's that. Another peeve moment I did have, but I do understand it because I do understand why they didn't have it because this is kind of during the air. This was filmed during the time of COVID where filming restrictions are placed and all that. But I feel like there was a huge missed opportunity with mentioning Kara, or even especially with Martha's death. If I couldn't get a cameo from Kara Danvers, who is supposed to be Clark's cousin, if I didn't get a cameo, like an actual cameo from her at the funeral, I was expecting maybe like a note or a voicemail left to him or a phone call just to like say like, I'm sorry, I heard what happened. I'm sorry for your loss. Martha was this great woman or something. I was expecting something and yet I got nothing because if you remember in season 1 of Supergirl, Kara still communicated with Clark either through phone calls, like text messages or instant messaging from work. She still communicated with him. So we always got like those little chat bubbles of like, this is Clark talking, this is Clark talking. It's like, oh, they're in communication with each other. That's so great. And it wasn't until season 2 premiere where we actually got Tyler coming into the role of Clark and actually having them on camera together. So I felt like a peeve of mine was like, I was hoping we'd get something from Kara. And like the fact that we didn't get a phone call or a letter or a flowers, a condolence bouquet of flowers with a message from her or something, is just like, no, pandemic, did you really take that from me? It's just, I needed something. Like, they were family. Like, why wouldn't she show her loss? Plus, also, right, if she can show up to Oliver Queen's funeral, why would she not show up to her cousin's adoptive mom's funeral? You know what I mean? So it's like, that was a peeve there. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. But another thing I want to touch on, in fact, is some ships that were kind of planted in this, I believe. Mainly with the twins. I'm not even going to count Clark and Lois because they're a given. Like, they're the staple already. But they did kind of plant to the fact that Jonathan, he says he's taken. I'm assuming he's telling the truth. And I'm also assuming that it's with the girl he was talking on a video chat with when he told Clark that he was going to be starting quarterback. I think her name was Eliza. I'm not sure if that's going to change if they do move to Smallville or not, but we'll have to wait and see about that. But they're definitely focused more on Jordan and Sarah's potential friendship, which could be hinting at being more, but it's going to be complicated because she is technically dating Sean, but we'll have to wait and see about that. We definitely had a kiss between them, so we do know there are feelings on Jordan's side. So we'll have to see where that goes. But when it comes to predictions, well, after seeing the Legacy of Hope featurette that they had, it's definitely showing more of Clark will have a struggle with the balance being a father and being Superman, and all that entails. So that's a given, and that's all I can give you. But the prediction I'd paused earlier to kind of add into this section was the fact that I think Morgan Edge started the whole reverse mortgage thing that Martha got caught up in. I think he's doing that because because Lana was saying that if the owner of the property had died and their heir doesn't buy it back and they sell it, the bank has first dibs or something like that. Like the bank owns their share of the property until either the heir pays them back the loan they gave or sells them the rest of the ownership of the property. So I'm thinking, if that's the case, I'm wondering if Morgan Edge started this reverse mortgage thing so he can have his hand in all the properties in Smallville, so that it would force them to sell it all to him so that he pretty much owns the town. Because I think he might want to demolish it and build something over top of it. Or something that would definitely be a huge disadvantage to Smallville, because Kyle Cushing, which is Lana's husband, views Morgan Edge in great regard. He thinks that he sees Smallville as the future. Well, he accused Lois of seeing Smallville as like a pity party, as like something like someone pities and wants to get out of, while he thinks Smallville could be a great future. But I'm thinking Edge is going to use that to his advantage and maybe like demolish all of Smallville to build something even bigger to be his future, with no care for the people of Smallville, I'm thinking. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. I'm definitely excited to see where this season will go. I'm hoping for more Arrowverse mentions or appearances. I know it's been reported that David Ramsey, aka John Diggle from Arrow, is not only meant to appear, but he's actually supposed to direct one of the episodes, so I'm hugely excited for that. But I'm not going to be doing my weekly recaps for them just because of school building up right now. I do want to do, if anything, I'll probably do like the midpoint of the season, and then I'll probably do the season finale, just to kind of touch back in with you guys to see like how much my thoughts have changed, especially if like what the predictions I left out now and my thoughts and theories, like especially with the Stranger. Is that actually Lex Luthor, or is it a different Luthor we've never met? Or maybe he actually is from a different Earth. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where that goes, because also I would love to see because Supergirl is also ending this year. I'm wondering if we're going to see any of the Supergirl characters coming into Superman, because we have seen Superman interact with a bunch of those characters over there when he's popped in a few times, you know? So it'll be very interesting to see about that. But otherwise, guys, what did you guys think of the premiere? What did you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your thoughts, theories, and opinions about all that stuff. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. The link for that is down below. I reblog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopsis, news, all that good stuff, all fun on one place. Go check that out. I'm not sure if I'm going to start one from Superman and Lois, but all the other Arrowverse shows have been attached to my Tumblr. I just don't go on Tumblr that often now because of school, so that's just a heads up there. But also, WordPress account, link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. A little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you come back next week to see what I have to say about the Flash premiere that's coming on March 2nd. But otherwise, put on the little bell for the notification, because I don't have a set schedule of when I post videos. I just know I always have to do it before the next episode airs. So I always try to aim for that. But I usually edit on the weekends, to give you a heads up. But I'm going to end it there because I got to grab that phone. So guys, take care. And this is Mel. Wishing you a great day, great week wherever you are. Please wear a mask during this pandemic, and please stay safe. Have a great night. Bye.